We're working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Good evening, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching ASEAN in Focus on tonight's headlines. The festering crisis in Myanmar will loom over talks between Southeast Asian leaders in Indonesia this week. ASEAN has been trying to kickstart a 5-point plan agreed with Myanmar 2 years ago after mediation attempts to end violence failed. But its efforts have stalled as the junta ignores international criticism. Thais are queuing under the blistering sun outside temples, shopping centers, and schools to cast their early ballots ahead of a much-anticipated general election next week. President Marcos Jr. expressed confidence that his administration is one step closer to attaining its goal of providing safe, efficient, and sustainable airport services in the country. And King Charles III was crowned monarch of the United Kingdom and 14 Commonwealth realms on Saturday at Britain's first coronation for 70 years. Our correspondent from London Bureau, Love and Season, was able to get some reactions from Filipinos living in the UK. President Marcos Jr. will go to Labuan Bajo in Indonesia May 9. That's the Tuesday for the 42nd Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit. The theme of the summit is ASEAN Matters, Epicentrum of Growth. To recall, the Department of Foreign Affairs said last month that the president is expected to advance the Philippines' priorities in the regional bloc through regional and multilateral cooperation in various areas. Let's listen in.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., along with leaders of ASEAN member states, will participate in the 42nd ASEAN Summit in Labuan Bajo, Indonesia, from 10 to 11 May 2023 at the invitation of President of the Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Joko Widodo, as this year's ASEAN Chair under the theme ASEAN Matters, Epicentrum of Growth. The ASEAN Summit provides a platform for ASEAN leaders to discuss and exchange views on key regional issues and build consensus on matters of mutual interest and provide policy directions on ASEAN community building efforts.
The President is expected to assert the importance of demonstrating ASEAN's centrality in the region amidst geopolitical rivalries and advancing the Philippines' priorities in ASEAN through regional and multilateral cooperation in areas such as long-term food and energy security, efforts towards economic recovery, combating transnational crimes, upgrading of technical and vocational education and training, adopting climate and disaster resilient technologies, and transitioning to renewable and alternative energy technologies, and the protection of migrant workers, among others.
President Marcos just finished his 4-day official working visit to Washington, D.C. He also attended the coronation of King Charles III in London. The festering crisis in Myanmar will loom over the talks between Southeast Asian leaders in Indonesia this week. The bloc is renewing calls for an end to the escalating violence. ASEAN has been trying to kickstart a 5-point plan agreed with Myanmar 2 years ago after mediation attempts to end violence failed. But its efforts have stalled as the junta ignores international criticism. It also refuses to engage with its opponents, which include ousted lawmakers, anti-coup People's Defense Forces, and ethnic minority armed groups. The May 9 to 11 summit will be held on the Indonesian island of Flores. Myanmar remains an ASEAN member but has been barred from top-level summits over the junta's failure to implement the peace plan. Indonesian Foreign Minister Retno Marsudi said that her country was using quiet diplomacy to speak with all sides of the conflict and spur renewed peace efforts. Now, for efforts, but former Indonesian Foreign Minister Marty Natalegawa said the worsening crisis posed an existential threat to ASEAN. He is urging the bloc to do more or risk being sidelined as other nations such as China and individual member countries of ASEAN take the lead in trying to resolve the situation. Vietnam has reported a record high temperature, with climate experts warning such extreme weather events would continue. A temperature of 44.1 degrees Celsius, that is 111.38 degrees Fahrenheit, was measured in Vietnam on Saturday, according to the National Center for Hydrometeorological Forecasting, breaking the 2019 record of 43.4 degrees Celsius. Across the country, weather experts and authorities had warned the population to remain indoors during the hottest parts of the day. Da Nang has asked Vietnam's industry and electricity ministries to cooperate to effectively deal with the heat, possible drought, lack of water, according to state media. Officials have also told the city's water supply company to ensure that there are adequate supplies of water for domestic use. A recent report from the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change warned that every increment of global warming will intensify multiple and concurrent hazards. In other news, Thais are queuing up under the blistering sun outside temples, shopping centers, and schools to cast their early ballots ahead of a much-anticipated election this week.
ก็รู้สึกตื่นเต้นนะครับเพราะว่านานๆทีมันจะมีเกือบจะ10 ปีแล้วเพิ่งจะได้เลือกนะครับ
More than 2 million Thais nationwide are registered to vote early ahead of the kingdom's May 14 election, which is shaping up to be a clash between army-backed establishment parties and resurgent opposition movements. Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha, who took power in a 2014 coup before cementing control in a controversial 2019 election, has been languishing in opinion polls, with voters favoring old-school opposition party Pheu Thai and the more radical Move Forward party. But with an electoral system heavily stacked in favor of the army-backed parties, challengers must achieve a landslide victory to have any hope of forming the next government.
รู้สึกแย่กลัวและกังวลมากว่ามันจะมีกลอะไรหรือเปล่าหรือกลโกงอะไรหรือเปล่าหรือไม่โปร่งใสอะไรหรือเปล่าที่เขาจะเข้ามาเป็นต่ออะค่ะอันนี้คือกังวลก็แต่ก็คือเรามาใช้สิทธิ์ของเราให้เต็มที่นี่แหละว่าอย่างน้อยเราก็ได้เลือกเขาและได้เลือกคนที่เราอยากจะให้เขามาพัฒนาประเทศเราค่ะ
More than 2 million Thais nationwide are registered to vote early ahead of the kingdom's May 14 election, which is shaping up to be a clash between army-backed establishment parties and resurgent opposition movements. Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha, who took power in a 2014 coup before cementing control in a controversial 2019 election, has been languishing in opinion polls, with voters favoring old-school opposition party Pheu Thai and the more radical Move Forward party. But with an electoral system heavily stacked in favor of the army-backed parties, challengers must achieve a landslide victory to have any hope of forming the next government. Elsewhere in the capital, the Royal Paragon Hall shopping center was packed with voters, albeit cooler ones, enjoying the complex's air conditioning. Temperatures across the capital soared as the day went on. The Thai Meteorological Department reported a record equaling 44.6 degrees Celsius in western Tak province. 25,000 people to flee their homes in what a top official said was an unprecedented crisis. Here's more.
I don't know that I've ever seen 24,500 people across over 20 communities be evacuated at one time.
That's Alberta Premier Danielle Smith explaining why her government has declared a provincial state of emergency. Smith says it gives the provinces greater powers to react to an extreme situation.
For example, the province can access emergency funds, mobilize additional supports, and continue to work with municipalities, organizations, and businesses to support affected residents.
This conference center in Edmonton is the temporary home for about 1,000 people. There are similar evacuation centers in other communities. Right now, about 110 wildfires are burning in northern and central Alberta. Close to a third of them are out of control. 27 of them have been caused by human activity. Another 11 have been sparked by lightning. Hot weather, almost no precipitation, and strong winds have made fields and forests tinder dry. Over the weekend, firefighters received a bit of relief. Temperatures dropped by about 20 degrees Celsius, and instead of 30-degree heat, the thermometer in many places recorded single-digit temps. As well, a bit of rain fell, but what is needed is a heavy rain that will soak the ground. Later in the week, things are expected to heat up again, and with that, the risk of more fires increases. To aid in the battle against the flames, other provinces are sending crews to Alberta. Meanwhile, those in evacuation centres wait patiently for the green light to return to their communities, and they hope that, when they do arrive, that the flames have not charred their homes. Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News, Edmonton, Canada. We live in extraordinary times.
Overnight, the unrest in Manipur State erupted after a protest march by a tribal group last week sparked clashes, with vehicles and houses set on fire and authorities firing tear gas. The military has deployed thousands of troops to the state bordering Myanmar, issued shoot-at-sight orders in extreme cases, imposed curfews, and cut the internet. The army said on Sunday no major flare-ups were reported overnight and that a curfew was lifted between 7 to 10 a.m. in Churachandpur district, one of the main flashpoint areas. Authorities have not given an official death toll, but hospital morgues in the state capital Imphal and Churachandpur had reported a combined total of 54 dead, according to local media. India's northeast has seen decades of unrest among ethnic and separatist groups seeking more autonomy or even secession of India, with at least 50,000 people killed and in Manipur since the 1950s. These conflicts had waned over the years, with many groups striking deals with New Delhi for more powers. In tonight's other news, President Marcos Jr. expressed confidence that his administration is one step closer to attaining its goal of providing safe, efficient, and sustainable airport services in the country. President Marcos made the remark after his meeting with officials of New York-based Global Infrastructure Partners, or GIP, one of the world's largest infrastructure investors in London. And President Marcos had the chance to have a tour of London Gatwick Airport, which is co-managed by GIP. His meeting with GIP executives enabled the president to get an idea of how to fulfill his bid for world-class Philippine airports. The GIP, founded in 2006, is a leading global independent infrastructure fund that administers $87 billion in assets on behalf of its investor base. The Office of the President, in a separate Facebook post, said the GIP has expressed its commitment to invest in the Philippines to improve its transportation system efficacy, increase renewable energy production, and advance digital transformation. Now, Papua New Guinea also celebrated and honored the coronation of King Charles III by hosting a simultaneous ceremony at Sir Hubert Murray Stadium in Port Moresby. At the scene is Echo Hortaleza. Echo.
People of Papua New Guinea witnessed the live telecast of the crowning of His Majesty King Charles III and Her Majesty Queen Consort Camilla at the Sir Hubert Murray Stadium. His Majesty King Charles will reign over the United Kingdom and 13 other Commonwealth realms. These include Papua New Guinea.
We will be a great king of the United Kingdom, of the Commonwealth, and of PNG. I thank each and every one of you for accepting the invitation to join this historical and prestigious event.
The country organized a program as celebration for the much-awaited coronation. Prime Minister James Marape spearheads the event with the other public officials.
On behalf of every child of Papua New Guinea throughout the length and breadth of this august nation, let me take this time to offer a hearty congratulations and well wishes to His Majesty King Charles III on his coronation. As a Christian country, we pray that God will bless him with a heart of service and duty to honor his calling, and also to speak with conviction on matters close to his heart.
Governor General Grand Chief Bob Dade and Foreign Minister Justin Tachenko traveled to Westminster Abbey, London, as the representatives of Papua New Guinea.
The nation of Papua New Guinea
and the United Kingdom have always enjoyed excellent relations since pre-independence time. I take this opportunity to wish His Majesty and the royal family continued good health, happiness, prosperity, and every success of the reign of King Charles III, the King of Papua New Guinea.
Eka Hartaleza Quinola, Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
Thanks, Echo. Meanwhile, King Charles III was crowned monarch of the United Kingdom and 14 Commonwealth realms at Britain's first coronation for 70 years. Our correspondent from London Bureau, Love and Season, was able to get some reactions from locals and Filipinos living in the UK. Take a look.
Great Britain's royal family enters a new chapter Saturday with the coronation of King Charles III. For the majority, it was a chance to celebrate being British or express their support for an establishment that pulls the interest of so many people around the world.
Mas maganda makikita mo na makita mo sa person na kinoporonahan ka, di ba? So what does it mean for you to be here, para to witness everything? It's my pleasure to witness everything. Kasi para sa akin isang pribileyo para makita mo yung paano maging magsisimula yung pag-ibig niya sa buong United Kingdom. And how do you think being a Filipino here in the UK? Why? How long have you been here? 9 years. And how did the relationship of the British people versus with the Filipinos? I mean, how you describe how that partnership? Because that's the Filipino English. It's good because I think most of the English they like Filipino. You know, the Pakistan they be amazing with all the Filipinos because they meant that they really like that.
The king's coronation, and I said to myself, I cannot miss this event because I was also here when Charles and Diana was married. I was in St. Paul's, and I don't want to miss this one because it's a once-in-a-lifetime event.
What do you find fascinating about British culture or the country in general? What do you find fascinating?
No, it's because it's I've heard that without these kings and queens, there will be no tourists in this area, you know. So what's fascinating is we quite see a varied people around from all over the world, you know. They're all like wanted to see here, also some miles away, they travel all the way here just to see this event, you know. And I cannot miss this event. I'm from London, and, you know, not like other people are really traveling away, you know. I think you have to be in London today. I think King Charles is quite good in a way of serving the environment, you know. He's more thinking of environment. There's no other monarch before that meddles with politics, but he likes to be at the forefront of the environment. So I think it's like more of a change, which is quite different from the Queen, you know. Yeah, I managed to buy this one today because the was
well, it's really surreal. I mean, I'm very thankful being personally na naranasan ko to. Kasi sabi ko nga sa'yo, maaaring hindi ko nadatnan si King George o si Prince William. Diba? So, yeah. Pero I'm very proud na naging parte ako ng coronation. Kita ko si Bongbong Marcos ay malapit sa mga monarch. So, maaaring maging dahilan yan para magkaroon tayo ng maraming investment sa Pilipinas.
This is Love and Season London Bureau reminding you to stay alert, for we live in extraordinary times.
As my usual habit, I'd like to end the day on a positive note. Let's encourage and build each other up so that no one is left behind. And that's it for tonight's broadcast of ASEAN in Focus. I'm Alma Angeles. Stay in the news because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.